The unexpected hero. The relentless drone of alien ships filled the air as Jack Harper sprinted through the ruins of what was once downtown Chicago. His lungs burned, muscles screaming for rest, but he couldn't stop. Not now. Not when he was so close to the Resistance's hidden bunker. Jack, a 28-year-old former Army Ranger, had been on a routine scavenging mission when he'd stumbled upon something that could change the course of the war. Something that could give humanity a fighting chance against the Zarkonian Empire that had invaded Earth just 6 months ago. As he ducked into an abandoned subway station, narrowly avoiding the Zarkonian patrol, his mind raced back to the moment everything changed. It had been an ordinary day, the kind where the biggest worry was being late for work. Then the sky had turned an ominous shade of purple, massive ships descending from the clouds like harbingers of doom. The Zarkonians, with their advanced technology and ruthless tactics, had overwhelmed Earth's defenses in a matter of days. Major cities fell, governments crumbled, and humanity found itself on the brink of extinction. But they didn't give up. They never would. Jack finally reached the hidden entrance to the bunker, tapping out a complex rhythm on a nondescript piece of concrete. A section of the wall slid away, revealing a heavily armed woman with fierce eyes and a scar running down her left cheek. "Harper," she growled, cutting it close, "aren't you?" "Sorry, Colonel Chen," Jack panted, slipping inside as the wall closed behind him. "But trust me, it was worth it." Colonel Lisa Chen, leader of the Chicago Resistance Cell, raised an eyebrow. "This better be good, Harper. We can't afford to lose any more people on wild goose chases." Jack pulled out a small data drive from his pocket, his eyes gleaming with excitement. "I managed to hack into a Zarkonian communication relay. You're not going to believe what I found." Chen's eyes widened as she took the drive, immediately leading Jack to the command center. The bunker was a hive of activity, filled with the last remnants of Chicago's fighting force. Scientists pored over alien tech, trying to reverse engineer weapons that could pierce Zarkonian shields. Medics tended to the wounded, while strategists huddled over maps, planning their next move. As Chen plugged in the drive, the main screen flickered to life, revealing an intercepted transmission. The image showed a Zarkonian of obvious importance, his purple skin adorned with intricate, glowing patterns that Jack had learned indicated high rank. "The marriage will proceed as planned," the alien was saying, his multifaceted eyes glinting with malice. "Princess Zira's union with the chosen human leader will cement our control over this pitiful planet." Jack and Chen exchanged shocked glances. This was the first they'd heard of any Zarkonian royalty, let alone a forced marriage to a human. "Keep watching," Jack urged. The transmission continued, revealing a younger Zarkonian female. Unlike the others Jack had seen, her skin was a soft lavender, with delicate, swirling patterns that seemed to pulse with an inner light. But it was her eyes that caught Jack's attention, filled with a mixture of defiance and sorrow. "Father, I beg you to reconsider," Princess Zira pleaded. "This union is unnecessary and cruel. We can find a peaceful way to coexist with the humans." The Zarkonian leader's face contorted with rage. "Silence. You will do as you're told, daughter. Your marriage will break the last of the human resistance. They will see that cooperation is their only choice." As the transmission ended, the bunker erupted into chaos. Voices shouted over each other, debating the implications of what they'd just seen. "Quiet." Chen's voice cut through the din like a knife. "Harper, what do you make of this?" Jack ran a hand through his disheveled hair, mind racing. "It's an opportunity," he said slowly. "If we can somehow rescue the princess, it could throw their whole operation into chaos." Chen nodded, a glimmer of hope in her eyes for the first time in months. "It's risky, but it might be our best shot. We need to plan this carefully." As the resistance began to formulate a daring rescue mission, Jack couldn't shake the image of Princess Zira from his mind. There had been something in her eyes, a spark of compassion that he hadn't expected to see in one of their conquerors. Little did Jack know that his decision to save an alien princess would not only change the course of the war, but would also lead him on a journey that would challenge everything he thought he knew about love, loyalty, and what it truly means to be human. Over the next few days, the Resistance worked tirelessly to gather intelligence on the Zarkonian mothership where Princess Zira was being held. Jack found himself at the center of the planning, his experience as a ranger making him the ideal candidate to lead the rescue mission. As he pored over schematics and security protocols, Jack couldn't help but wonder about the alien princess. Was she truly different from the rest of her kind? Or was this all an elaborate trap? The night before the mission, Jack stood on the roof of the bunker, gazing up at the stars now partially obscured by the looming Zarkonian ships. Tomorrow, he would either strike a decisive blow for humanity or meet his end in the cold vacuum of space. Either way, Jack Harper was about to become an unexpected hero in humanity's darkest hour. Daring escape. The low hum of the stolen Zarkonian shuttle filled Jack's ears as he maneuvered through the debris field surrounding Earth. His heart raced, but years of military training kept his hands steady on the unfamiliar controls. Beside him, Sergeant Maria Ruiz, the team's tech expert, worked furiously to maintain their cloaking field. 2 minutes until we reached the mothership, Maria whispered, her eyes never leaving the holographic display. Jack nodded, his mind replaying the events of the past 24 hours. The Resistance's plan had been audacious. Use salvaged Zarkonian tech to infiltrate their mothership, locate Princess Zira, and extract her before anyone realized what was happening. Easy, right? The mission had almost fallen apart before it began. As they approached the Zarkonian patrol line, their cloaking device had fluctuated, nearly giving them away. It was only Maria's quick thinking and Jack's piloting skills that got them through undetected. Now, as the enormous mothership loomed before them, Jack felt a mix of awe and dread. The vessel was a city in space, its purple-hued metal gleaming against the backdrop of stars. Somewhere in that labyrinth of alien technology was their target, and humanity's best hope for turning the tide of war. Beginning docking sequence, Jack murmured, guiding their shuttle towards a small, rarely used airlock they'd identified in their intelligence gathering. The shuttle shuddered as it made contact with the mothership. For a heart-stopping moment, Jack feared they'd been detected, but the alarms remained silent. "We're in," Maria confirmed, a hint of relief in her voice, initiating ship-wide scan for the princess's biosignature. As Maria worked, Jack and the third member of their team, Corporal Devin Lee, donned exosuits specially designed to mimic Zarkonian life signs. It wasn't perfect, but it should fool casual scans. "Got her," Maria announced. "Level 37, Royal Quarters. But we got a problem. Security's tighter than we anticipated. There's no way we're getting there undetected." Jack's mind raced, considering and discarding plans. Then, an idea struck him. Risky, but potentially brilliant. "We're not going to avoid detection," he said, a sly grin spreading across his face. "We're going to use it." Minutes later, alarms blared throughout the mothership. Jack, now clad in a stolen Zarkonian officer's uniform, strode purposefully through the corridors, Maria and Devin flanking him in the guise of lower-ranked soldiers. "Intruder alert" in engineering. A voice boomed in the alien language they'd painstakingly learned. "All personnel report to assigned stations." The plan was simple but dangerous. They'd triggered a false alarm in a section of the ship far from the princess's location, hoping the ensuing chaos would provide cover for their true objective. As they approached the royal quarters, Jack's heart pounded in his chest. Everything hinged on the next few moments. 2 Zarkonian guards stood at attention outside an ornate door. Jack approached, forcing confidence into his stride. "By order of Emperor Zorax," Jack declared in flawless Zarkonian, "the princess is to be moved to a secure location immediately." The guards hesitated, their multifaceted eyes narrowing in suspicion. Jack held his breath, acutely aware of the stunner hidden beneath his uniform. Just as he feared the ruse had failed, a voice called out from behind the door. "Let them in. I'll go with them." The guards, startled by the princess's acquiescence, stepped aside. As the door slid open, Jack found himself face to face with Princess Zira. Up close, she was even more striking than in the transmissions. Her lavender skin seemed to shimmer with an inner light, and her eyes, a deep, swirling violet, fixed on Jack with an intensity that made him momentarily forget to breathe. "Well," Zira said, an edge to her voice, "aren't you going to escort me to safety, soldier?" Snapping back to reality, Jack nodded curtly. "Of course, Your Highness. This way, please." As they moved through the ship's corridors, Jack marveled at the princess's composure. Did she suspect they were human? Or was she simply used to being shuffled around at a moment's notice? Their luck couldn't hold forever. As they neared the hangar bay where their shuttle waited, a squad of Zarkonian soldiers rounded the corner. "Halt!" the squad leader barked. "Why is the princess here? She should be in her quarters during an alert." Jack's mind raced, searching for a plausible explanation. But before he could speak, Zira stepped forward. "Are you questioning my decisions, soldier?" she snapped, her royal authority evident in every syllable. "I go where I please, especially during a potential security breach. Now stand aside." The squad leader faltered, caught between protocol and the command of his princess. It was all the opening Jack needed. "Go," he shouted, dropping the pretense and sprinting for the hangar. Maria and Devon fell in behind him, with Zira keeping pace surprisingly well. Chaos erupted as the Zarkonians realized they'd been tricked. Energy bolts sizzled past them as Jack and his team returned fire with their stunners. They burst into the hangar bay, making a beeline for their shuttle. Jack's heart sank as he saw a squad of Zarkonian troops advancing on the small craft. "New plan," he yelled, changing direction. "We're taking that." He pointed to a sleek, dart-like ship, clearly a high-speed royal transport. As they ran, Jack saw understanding dawn in Zira's eyes. She pressed her hand to a panel by the ship's entrance, and the hatch slid open. They piled in, Jack leaping into the pilot's seat. His hands flew over the controls, thanking whatever cosmic luck had made Zarkonian ships similar enough to the one they'd arrived in. The engines roared to life as energy bolts peppered the ship's hull. Jack gritted his teeth, engaging full power. The royal transport shot forward, streaking out of the hangar bay and into open space. But their troubles were far from over. The mothership's guns were turning towards them, and Jack could see fighters being scrambled in pursuit. "Hold on," he shouted, pushing the ship to its limits. They plunged towards Earth, the hull heating up as they hit the atmosphere at a dangerous angle. Zarkonian fighters screamed after them, energy bolts lighting up the sky. Jack's world narrowed to the ship's controls and the rapidly approaching ground. He weaved through the barrage, his years of training and natural skill pushing the alien craft to heights its designers had never imagined. With a bone-jarring thud, they hit the ground in a remote forest, skidding to a stop in a clearing. For a moment, there was only the sound of creaking metal and harsh breathing. "Everyone alive," Jack managed to croak out. A chorus of affirmative groans answered him. As the adrenaline began to fade, Jack turned to look at their unexpected passenger. Princess Zira met his gaze, her alien features unreadable. "I believe," she said slowly, "that you humans have some explaining to do." As the implications of what they'd just accomplished sank in, Jack couldn't help but let out a disbelieving laugh. They'd done it. They'd actually done it. They'd rescued an alien princess from the heart of the enemy mothership. But as the distant sound of Zarkonian search parties reached his ears, Jack knew their adventure was far from over. In fact, it was just beginning. Unlikely allies. The dense forest canopy provided welcome cover as Jack led his team and their alien guest deeper into the wilderness. The distant hum of Zarkonian search parties pushed them onward, despite exhaustion threatening to overwhelm them. "We need to find shelter," Maria panted, supporting a limping Devon, preferably somewhere we can tend to our wounds and rest. Jack nodded, his eyes scanning the terrain. His ranger training kicked in, identifying a promising rock formation in the distance. There, he pointed, might be some caves we can use. As they trudged forward, Jack couldn't help but marvel at Princess Zura's resilience. Despite her sheltered upbringing, she kept pace with the humans, her bioluminescent skin providing a soft glow in the deepening twilight. "Your Highness," Jack began, breaking the tense silence, "I know you must have questions." "Why?" Zura interrupted, her violet eyes fixed on him. "Why risk everything to rescue me? I am your enemy." Jack met her gaze, seeing the confusion and curiosity swirling in those alien depths. "Because it was the right thing to do," he said simply. "And because we believe you might be the key to ending this war." Zira fell silent, contemplating his words as they approached the rock formation. To their relief, Jack's instincts proved correct. A shallow cave offered refuge from both pursuers and the elements. As Maria tended to Devon's injuries and set up a rudimentary perimeter alarm, Jack found himself alone with the alien princess. "I've never understood your species," Zira said softly, watching as Jack attempted to start a small fire. "Your technology is primitive, your planet woefully unprepared for interstellar threats. And yet, you resist. You endure. Why?" Jack paused, considering her question. "It's who we are," he finally replied. "Humanity has faced countless challenges throughout our history. We've made mistakes, horrible ones, but we've also achieved incredible things. We don't give up, even when the odds seem impossible." He succeeded in coaxing the small flame to life, its warm glow illuminating the cave. "What about you?" he asked. "Why oppose your father's plans? Surely it would be easier to go along with the invasion." Zira's luminescent patterns pulsed softly, a sign Jack had come to associate with deep emotion. "Because it's wrong," she whispered. "I've studied your people, your cultures. There's so much beauty, so much potential. The thought of extinguishing that, it goes against everything I believe in." Their eyes met over the flickering fire, a moment of understanding passing between human and alien. The spell was broken by Maria's return. "Perimeter's set," she reported, "but we can't stay here long. It's only a matter of time before they find us." Jack nodded, his mind already working on their next move. "We need to contact the resistance. Let them know the mission was successful." "I might be able to help with that," Zira offered hesitantly. All eyes turned to her as she continued. "My neural implant. It's designed to interface with Zarkonian technology, but perhaps your expert could modify it to send a secure transmission." Maria's eyes lit up at the challenge. "It's risky, but it might just work. Your Highness, may I?" As Maria carefully examined the almost invisible implant at the base of Zira's skull, Jack found himself reevaluating the alien princess. Her willingness to help, to put herself at risk for their cause, spoke volumes. Hours passed as Maria worked, the tension in the cave palpable. Finally, with a triumphant grin, she announced, "It's done. We can send a short burst transmission to the resistance, but we'll need to move immediately after. It'll give away our position." Jack nodded, steeling himself for what came next. "Do it." The message was brief. Mission successful. Extraction needed. Coordinates to follow. As soon as it was sent, they moved, leaving the safety of the cave for the unknown dangers of the forest. They traveled through the night, pushing their bodies to the limit. Zira proved invaluable, her knowledge of Zarkonian search patterns allowing them to stay one step ahead of their pursuers. As dawn broke, they found themselves at the edge of a small town, long abandoned in the wake of the invasion. Buildings stood silent, nature slowly reclaiming what humans had left behind. "We'll rest here," Jack decided, leading them to a sturdy-looking house. "Set up watches. With luck, the resistance will find us soon." As the others settled in, Jack found Zira standing by a window, her gaze fixed on the desolate street outside. "I'm sorry," she said softly as he approached. "For all of this, for what my people have done to your world." Jack stood beside her, their shoulders almost touching. "You're not responsible for your father's actions, Zira." She turned to him, surprise flickering across her alien features at the use of her name. "Perhaps not. But I bear the burden of making it right." Before Jack could respond, a noise outside caught their attention. His hand went to his weapon, body tensing for a fight. But instead of Zarkonian troops, a group of ragged humans emerged from the shadows, led by a familiar face. "Colonel Chen," Jack breathed, relief washing over him. The colonel's eyes widened as she took in the scene, her gaze lingering on Zira. "Looks like you've got one hell of a story to tell, Harper." As introductions were made and plans formulated, Jack couldn't help but feel a spark of hope. With Zira's inside knowledge and the Resistance's determination, they might just have a chance at turning the tide of this war. But as he caught the alien princess's eye, a new complication arose in his heart. In the midst of humanity's darkest hour, Jack Harper was falling for the most unlikely ally of all. The group moved swiftly through the abandoned town, Colonel Chen leading them to a hidden Resistance outpost. As they entered the underground facility, Jack couldn't help but notice the mix of awe and suspicion on the faces of the Resistance fighters as they caught sight of Zira. "All right, people," Chen barked, silencing the murmurs. "We've got work to do. Harper, debrief in 5. The rest of you, make our guest comfortable." As Jack followed Chen to a makeshift war room, he felt a moment of unease leaving Zira behind. He caught Maria's eye, receiving a reassuring nod. She'd watch over the princess. The debrief was intense, Jack recounting every detail of their daring rescue and subsequent escape. Chen listened intently, her expression unreadable. "It's a bold move, Harper," she finally said, "but it might just be the break we've been waiting for. If the princess is willing to help us." "She is," Jack interrupted, surprising himself with his certainty. "I know it sounds crazy, but I trust her." Chen raised an eyebrow, but didn't comment further. "Well, let's see what our new ally has to say for herself." When they returned to the main area, they found Zira deep in conversation with the Resistance's lead scientist, Dr. Yumiko Tanaka. The two were hunched over a holographic display, discussing what appeared to be Zarkonian shield technology. "If we modulate the frequency here," Zira was saying, her delicate fingers manipulating the hologram, "we might be able to create a localized disruption." Dr. Tanaka's eyes widened. "Of course. Why didn't we see it before? This could change everything." Jack couldn't help but smile at the scene. Here was proof that cooperation between their species was possible, that there could be a future beyond this war. Chen cleared her throat, drawing everyone's attention. "All right, Your Highness. You've had a chance to see what we're up against. Are you ready to officially join our cause?" Zira straightened, her luminescent patterns pulsing with determination. "More than ready, Colonel. My father's actions have brought nothing but suffering to both our peoples. It's time to make this right." Over the next few days, the Resistance base buzzed with activity. Zira's knowledge proved invaluable, allowing them to make leaps in understanding Zarkonian technology. Jack found himself working closely with the alien princess, their initial wariness evolving into a deep respect. And something more. Late one night, as they pored over battle plans, Jack noticed Zira's patterns dimming, a sign he'd come to recognize as fatigue. "Hey," he said softly, placing a hand on her shoulder. "Why don't we take a break? There's something I want to show you." Curiosity piqued, Zira followed Jack through the base and up a hidden ladder. They emerged on the roof of the abandoned building above their underground hideout. Zira gasped as she took in the night sky, untainted by the usual glow of Zarkonian ships. Stars twinkled above them, more brilliant than Jack had seen in months. "It's beautiful," Zira whispered, her own bioluminescence seeming to pulse in harmony with the starlight. "This is what we're fighting for," Jack said, his voice thick with emotion. "The right to look up at our own sky without fear. The chance to explore those stars on our own terms, to meet other species as equals, not conquerors or conquered. Zira turned to him, her alien eyes shimmering with unshed tears. Jack, But whatever she was about to say was cut off by a deafening roar. The sky lit up as a massive Zarkonian warship descended, its weapons already firing on the town. They found us. Jack breathed, his heart racing. We need to evacuate now. As they raced back into the base, alarms blaring around them, Jack knew that the real battle was only just beginning. The fate of two species now hung in the balance, and the bond between a human soldier and an alien princess would be tested in ways neither could have imagined. The battle for Earth. Chaos reigned as the resistance fighters scrambled to evacuate their base. The thunderous boom of Zarkonian weapons fire shook the very ground beneath their feet. Jack ran through the corridors, shouting orders and helping people to safety. Maria, get that data backed up and wiped. Devon, help with the wounded. Jack's voice cut through the pandemonium. His eyes scanned the crowd, searching for one particular face. Where's Zira? A hand grasped his arm, and he turned to find the alien princess beside him, her luminescent patterns pulsing rapidly with what he now recognized as anxiety. I'm here, Jack. What can I do? Before he could respond, Colonel Chen's voice crackled over the comms. Harper, we got a problem. The Zarkonians have deployed some kind of energy net. Our transports can't break through. Jack's mind raced. They were trapped, outgunned, and outnumbered. But giving up wasn't an option. Zira. He turned to the princess. That shield disruption technique you were working on with Dr. Tanaka. Could it work on a larger scale? Zira's eyes widened as she caught on to his plan. Theoretically, yes. But we'd need a massive power source and a way to broadcast the signal across a wide area. The town's old radio tower, Jack realized. If we can get there and boost the signal. It might just work, Zira finished, a glimmer of hope in her voice. Jack quickly relayed the plan to Chen. It was risky, but it was their only shot. I need a team to hold off the Zarkonian ground forces while we make for the tower, he concluded. Consider it done, Chen replied grimly. Just make it count, Harper. As they prepared to leave the relative safety of the base, Jack pulled Zira aside. Are you sure about this? He asked, concern evident in his voice. Once we do this, there's no going back. Your people will see it as treason. Zira met his gaze, her alien features set with determination. My people are making a terrible mistake, Jack. If we don't stop this war, both our species will suffer. I've made my choice. With a nod of understanding, Jack led the way out into the chaos of battle. The night sky was alight with energy beams and explosions, Zarkonian dropships descending amid the ruins of the town. A squad of resistance fighters provided cover fire as Jack, Zira, Maria, and Dr. Tanaka made a dash for the old radio tower. They weaved through debris-strewn streets, the sounds of combat echoing all around them. Jack's military training kicked in, every sense on high alert, as he guided the team through the war zone. As they neared the tower, a group of Zarkonian soldiers appeared, cutting off their path. Jack raised his weapon, preparing for a fight, but Zira stepped forward. Stand down, she commanded in her native tongue, her royal bearing on full display. By order of Princess Zira, you will let us pass. The soldiers hesitated, clearly conflicted. It was all the opening Jack needed. In a flurry of motion, he and Maria neutralized the threat, stunning the Zarkonians before they could react. Impressive, Jack said, a hint of admiration in his voice. Zira managed a small smile. I may oppose this war, but I'm still a princess. They reached the base of the tower, Maria and Dr. Tanaka immediately setting to work on the old equipment. Jack and Zira stood guard, the sounds of battle growing ever closer. How long? Jack called over his shoulder. 10 minutes, maybe less, Maria replied, her fingers flying over a jury-rigged console. We're routing power from half the town to boost the signal. Those 10 minutes felt like an eternity. Wave after wave of Zarkonian troops assaulted their position, held off only by the combined efforts of Jack's tactical skills and Zira's knowledge of their strategies. Just as it seemed they might be overwhelmed, Maria's voice rang out triumphantly. "It's ready." Dr. Tanaka turned to Zira. "Princess, we need you to interface with the system. Your neural implant is the key to making this work." Without hesitation, Zira stepped forward, placing her hand on the modified transmitter. Her bioluminescent patterns flared brightly as she connected with the machine. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, a pulse of energy radiated outward from the tower. The air itself seemed to ripple as the Zarkonian energy net flickered and died. "It worked," Maria exclaimed, checking her readings. "Their shields are down." Jack immediately activated his comm. "Colonel Chen, the net is down. Launch the counterattack now." The response was immediate. Hidden resistance fighters emerged from concealed positions, their weapons now effective against the suddenly vulnerable Zarkonian forces. In the sky, Earth's remaining aircraft rose to challenge the alien ships. As the tide of battle began to turn, Jack turned to Zira, only to find her slumped against the transmitter, her luminescence dangerously dim. "Zira," he cried, rushing to her side. "What's wrong?" She looked up at him, her eyes unfocused. "The interface, it was too much." "But Jack, I saw something. A weakness in their entire system. If we can broadcast this signal to all their ships simultaneously." Understanding dawned on Jack's face. "We could shut down their entire invasion force." Zira nodded weakly. "But we'd need access to their main command ship, my father's ship." A plan began to form in Jack's mind. It was audacious, perhaps even suicidal. But if it worked, "Then that's where we're going," he said, his voice filled with determination. He gently lifted Zira, supporting her weight. "Come on, princess. We've got a war to end." As they made their way back through the battlefield, the resistance now on the offensive, Jack couldn't help but marvel at how far they'd come. A human soldier and an alien princess, united against impossible odds. The final battle for Earth loomed before them, with the fate of two species hanging in the balance. But as Jack felt Zira's hand tighten around his, he knew that together, they just might have a chance at forging a new future, for humans, for Zarkonians, and for whatever might blossom between them in the peace that would follow. A new beginning. The Resistance's makeshift hangar bustled with activity as Jack and his team prepared for their most daring mission yet. Engineers worked feverishly to modify a captured Zarkonian shuttle, incorporating the shield-disrupting technology that had turned the tide of the ground battle. Zira, still weakened from her ordeal at the radio tower, insisted on joining the mission despite Jack's concerns. "My father won't stop unless I confront him directly," she argued, her determination evident in the pulsing of her bioluminescent patterns. Colonel Chen approached, her face grim but resolute. "The diversion is in place. Our forces will launch a coordinated attack on their secondary ships, drawing attention away from the command vessel. It's the best shot we can give you." Jack nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. "It'll be enough. It has to be." As the team boarded the shuttle, Jack pulled Zira aside one last time. "Are you absolutely sure about this?" he asked, his voice low. "There's no going back once we're up there." Zira's alien eyes met his, filled with a mix of fear and resolve. "My entire life, I've watched my father's ambition hurt countless worlds. It ends today, Jack, one way or another." With a shared nod of understanding, they boarded the shuttle. Jack took the pilot's seat, his hands moving confidently over the alien controls. As they lifted off, the sky above them erupted into chaos. The Resistance's attack had begun, drawing Zarkonian forces away from their true target. Approaching the command ship, Maria called out from her station. "Cloaking field is holding, but we've only got minutes before they detect us." Jack gritted his teeth, pushing the shuttle to its limits. They weaved through the massive space battle, energy beams, and explosions lighting up the void around them. With a skillful maneuver, Jack brought them into the command ship's docking bay, mere seconds before their cloaking failed. "Move," Jack ordered as they disembarked. The team fought their way through surprise Zarkonian troops, Zira's presence causing momentary confusion that gave them the edge they needed. They battled their way to the ship's central control room, every step bringing them closer to their goal, and to a confrontation that would decide the fate of two species. The doors to the control room hissed open, revealing Emperor Zorax surrounded by his elite guards. His multifaceted eyes widened in shock at the sight of his daughter among the human invaders. "Zira," he bellowed, his voice a mix of confusion and rage. "What is the meaning of this treachery?" Zira stepped forward, her weakened state belied by the strength in her voice. "It's over, Father. Your war, your conquest, it ends now." As Zorax and his guards raised their weapons, Jack and his team sprang into action. The control room erupted into chaos, energy bolts flying as human and Zarkonian fought in close quarters. Amidst the fray, Zira made her way to the central console, her hands flying over the controls as she initiated the planet-wide transmission. Jack fought his way to her side, providing cover as she worked. "It's done," Zira cried as the console flared to life. A pulse of energy radiated out from the ship, expanding to encompass the entire Zarkonian fleet. For a moment, everything seemed to hang in balance. Then, one by one, the Zarkonian ships began to power down, their weapons and shields failing as the disruptive signal took hold. Emperor Zorax, witnessing his invasion crumble before his eyes, let out a roar of frustration. He lunged towards Zira, energy blade raised high, but Jack was faster, intercepting the blow and engaging the Emperor in a desperate struggle. "You fool," Zorax snarled as they grappled. "You've doomed us all." Jack met the Emperor's gaze, his voice steady despite the strain. "No, we've given both our species a chance at a real future." With a final surge of strength, Jack disarmed the Emperor, sending him sprawling to the ground. As Zarkonian reinforcements poured into the room, Zira's voice rang out, amplified by the ship's communication system. "Attention, all Zarkonian forces. This is Princess Zira. Stand down immediately. The invasion is over." To Jack's amazement, the Zarkonian soldiers hesitated, then slowly lowered their weapons. It seemed Zira's influence extended further than even she had realized. In the days that followed, an uneasy peace settled over Earth. The Zarkonian fleet, immobilized by the Resistance's technology, had no choice but to negotiate. Zira, with Jack by her side, took a leading role in the talks between humans and Zarkonians. It wasn't easy. Centuries of Zarkonian expansionism and the scars of invasion left both sides wary. But slowly, progress was made. The Zarkonians agreed to withdraw from Earth, and in exchange, humans would share their unique approach to problem-solving and adaptation, traits that had allowed them to resist the invasion against all odds. As the last Zarkonian ship prepared to depart, Jack found Zira standing alone, gazing up at the stars. He approached, standing beside her in comfortable silence. "So," he finally said, a hint of uncertainty in his voice, "I guess this is goodbye." Zira turned to him, her alien features soft in the starlight. "It doesn't have to be," she said. "My father has been deposed. Our people need a new leader, someone to guide them towards a more peaceful path." She paused, taking Jack's hand in hers. "I could use an advisor who understands both our species, someone brave and kind, and infuriatingly stubborn." Jack couldn't help but smile. "Are you offering me a job, Your Highness?" "I'm offering you a chance to help shape the future," Zira replied, her bioluminescent patterns pulsing with what Jack now recognized as affection. "For both our peoples, and for us." As Jack looked into Zira's eyes, he saw not an alien princess, but a partner, an equal, someone who had risked everything for what she believed in. just as he had. "Well," he said, squeezing her hand gently, "when you put it like that, how can I refuse?" As they stood together, human and Zarkonian, the stars seemed to shine a little brighter. The road ahead would be challenging, filled with obstacles and setbacks, but they would face it together, a living symbol of what could be achieved when two species chose understanding over conflict, love over hate. The war was over, and for Jack Harper and Princess Zira, a new adventure was just beginning.